Namaste and welcome to another podcast of Tech Storytelling. This tech story is for the business leaders, that is for you and by the business leaders. I am your host today and I have a special guest today and she is Rita. So Rita, namaste and welcome to this podcast.
And thank you
Rita
for
is,
inviting.
yeah, most welcome. Rita is the Executive Vice President, Robotic Process Automation at CoSourcing Partner. So welcome to this podcast, and really, hopefully that you will add a lot of value to our audiences. So Rita, before we get started, can you tell us about yourself so that at least audiences can get a sense of with whom they are speaking?
Sure. So I have an undergraduate degree in finance and accounting, an international finance MBA. I started out in the accounting area and I loved accounting. Over time, probably in it was the early 2000s, this concept of shared services came to be. So a lot of companies had shared services. And it was funny. My company at the time was EDS, and they said, we're going to start a shared service, around the world in certain locations. And the corporate office was in Dallas, and I was in Detroit. Well, if I didn't raise my hand, all
Yeah,
the people in Detroit would have lost their jobs. So I said, I'll do it. So, leadership advice, always raise your hand. Even before you think about it, just raise your hand. So we started the shared services. And we actually moved a lot of the work to India, and it
yeah,
went extremely well. And it was all about transformation
yeah,
because you had organizations all over the globe doing the same thing different ways, and so you needed to standardize. And that's really, that was really the first step in my change in career path. So I loved shared services. I loved working with people all over the world with different cultures. And you have to tailor your communication to those different people in different ways. And so then EDS got bought out by HP. HP had an even bigger shared service organization. And around 2013, the CIO at the time said, we're gonna implement RPA, robotic process automation, and we're going to be able to, and he said the words, eliminate jobs. And that was a bad word to use. It was the wrong
yeah,
word to use. And to this day, 99% of the clients I work with say what we want to do is free up the capacity of people
yeah.
so they can do more important, more value added, more challenging things. So I was all about that. I loved shared services. That became my passion. But once I started with this RPA, I saw how it was going to change the way business is done around the world. So I changed my career path. And now I'm in robotic process automation, which is a technology based job.
Yeah, yeah. So thanks a lot. I mean, I have a lot of questions for you, but one thing that grabbed my attention, and this is where a lot of people who are coming from shared services or finance and accounting, still they are figuring it out. What is robotic process automation and how this is applicable to them? And what I saw here that you transition your career from shared services or finance and accounting professional to the technology. So how this transition happened, what kind of challenges you faced, and what's your message to all the people who are into finance and accounting space?
This is a good thing for you. It's not a bad thing. When I was in shared services, I said, oh, we took all these jobs from other organizations and we centralized them and we standardized them. And so then when they introduced RPA automation, oh my goodness, that's going to try and take my job away. It was
Yeah,
okay when I took jobs. But after 6 months, I was a believer because what it does is it gets rid of all your mundane tasks, all your
yeah,
data entry. For example, maybe you're keying in spreadsheets and you have to run 87 macros a day. The robot can run those 87 macros. The robot can take the data from 8 different systems and put it in your one spreadsheet. So I saw the value, and that's really, that was really important. But everybody's scared. They're scared of change, and this is change. But this is a good kind of change. And I work with shared service organizations. I have one client, she's got 150 automations for her shared services organization. And it's a $12 billion plus company. So it's not a small company. And she said, Rita, it just freed up all these little tasks that we need to do. And we spent more time on the little tasks and didn't spend enough time on the big tasks. Well, now it's kind of turned it around. It went from 80% on the little tasks to 20% on the big ones to the other way around, 20
Oh,
on the
yeah.
little and 80 on the big.
Yeah, this is great, incredible story. So, I mean, you walked into shared services. So I heard about outsourcing. And that's where a lot of innovation happened, what you said when you started. In fact, I heard about insourcing. But what is the curiosity is to know about the co-sourcing, because you are the executive director with co-sourcing partners. So any thought process or any rationale behind putting co-sourcing? What I see, a lot of it makes sense with intelligent automation, but would you like to share your thought on co-sourcing?
Co-sourcing. Okay, this is a question I've never been asked. By co-sourcing, you mean should you outsource plus automation, use automation?
Yeah, maybe
Okay.
co-creating along with the customer to transform.
Well, that's what we do. That's why part of the name of our company is co-sourcing. You know, we don't want to be a vendor, we want to be a partner. And that means that their success is paramount to our success, right? It means understanding their business. It means, you know, so the first thing we ask when we come in, what are your pain points and what keeps you up at night? Because if we can solve eliminate their pain points, if we can get them a good night's sleep,
Yeah.
they're going to want to keep us as a vendor. And no, they're going to want to keep us as a partner.
Yeah, it's absolutely makes sense. So what I noticed from your profile, I mean, you played a key role in building the RPA practice that leads to many awards. So by the way, congratulations. What I saw, you have achieved approximate 10 different awards, part of your overall journey. So would you like to share the best practices, frameworks, or the journey that led to all the different kinds of awards in your overall portfolio?
Okay, so first of all, let's step back to maybe 8 years ago when I was at Hewlett Packard. You know, you can say that you're good and you can solve.
I think you are on mute. Uh, we can't hear you. I think you
Oh,
are on.
sorry about that. Okay, so you can, you know, you can say you're good and your boss can say you're good and your company can say you're good. But when you measure your performance outside of your environment by somebody that's unbiased, right?
Yeah,
That's a whole different story. So I will always encourage my clients to try to apply for awards because that's really where the rubber meets the road. That shows you how you compete against shared services in the same industry, shared services in another industry. So I think it's a great thing, and it's important too. And it doesn't matter if you lose. It doesn't matter if it's how you play the game, but it helps you see how you compete against others outside of your environment. We spend all our time at work, it's all about my company, my customers. Yeah, well, what are the great things out there that other customers are doing, other companies are doing? So you find that when you go and apply for awards, you see, you take yourself out of your environment where you're comfortable with and see what other people are doing. And that's important because you are not the have all, end all, know all.
yeah, great. So my curiosity, I mean, I spoken in multiple international forums. I attended many RPA forums. And what I listened and what I studied, that 80% of the customer is still they haven't scaled their RPA practice due to many reasons. And one of the reason maybe they're saying, I mean, they haven't integrated with AI. Always they think from the simple, just solving the problem. In your view, uh, mostly you are working with a very large customer base in US. Where, I mean, how do you see the RP and AI, intelligent automation, hyper automation, it's coming together and helping the customer to transform their business? What's your view?
Okay. So it sounds like you tailored these questions for my benefit. These are good questions. Let me say this: a lot of times companies buy RPA and they're sold by the salesperson. This is so easy, low touch. Anybody can do the code, right? And so they get they get the software and they don't know what to do with it. I call that a false start. The other thing that happens is they're nervous. Okay, let's say they're shared services, they're nervous. So they don't really want it to be a success. So they'll take something very small that takes 5 minutes a day to do and they automate it. Well, there's no payback there, right? And guess what? Eventually, your C suite's going to say, was there any payback on this? No. Well, then I'm not spending any more money, right? So those are the two things that I see most often, and they're wrong. So I really believe that the right way to start, even if it's just 6 months, 12 months, is work with a services company that knows this business, because they're going to mentor and train you in the right way. They're going to say, look, we want to evaluate these projects. This one has a terrible payback, and a good payback in RPA is 12 months or less. That's pretty quick. Traditional IT is 18 to 24 months. So let us show you how to evaluate a project. And then, let us show you how to do the development. We can train your team. It's a similar approach to your traditional IT, your SDLC process, very similar you need to use in robotics. But when you let anybody can code, they don't understand that. They're going to slap the code together. They're not going to do proper testing. They're going to put it in production. It's going to be a disaster. And the C-suite's going to say, not only are we taking that out of production, we're taking you out of production too.
Okay, great. So what I sense from the conversation that any company or any business leaders who are trying to kick off their journey, so rather than they try by their own, rather than they burn their fingers, it's better to go out and find a partner who has immense exposure and experience in transforming the business, experience the success, and then try to scale along with your people, right? This is what you are suggesting at this moment, right? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you are right. But here's the other thing, and we deal with, I prefer to work with small and medium companies, to be honest. But when you deal with big companies, what they want to do is they want to get the big vendors, like, I won't, the big consulting vendors. And the problem with that is you're going to have a partner come in and they'll say, oh yeah, we can do that. But they've got to talk 3 levels down to somebody in their organization. You want somebody that has rolled up their sleeves and has done it, right? That's what you want. So be very picky for your service provider. Make sure they know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
I've got over 800 automations behind me.
Yeah.
Tell me about what department, what industry, what process, and we can have a good experience conversation. So that's really important too. Pick the right service provider, because what they want to do is they just want to make money off of you, right?
Oh, yeah.
They're not, they don't want to, they want to be your vendor, not your partner. So look for a partner.
Yeah, absolutely makes sense. So I think what I saw, you worked a lot into finance and accounting, and I'm sure that you must have dealt with transform the CFO office as well. Today is the tech story, and we promise that definitely it will come in the form of storytelling. Would you like to share one of the any business use case in finance and accounting where you have really transformed and drive the business outcome? Uh,
Sure, I can. Let me give you a recent story.
yeah.
This is a global manufacturing company, and global means they've got clients around the world, and they, any company has issues with clients paying on time. And so, and this is funny, this was their first automation. And to me, this is a huge risk when you decide your first automation is something that's customer facing.
Yeah.
But they said, okay, we have these letters that we send out. They call them dunning letters or collection letters.
Yeah.
And they wanted to have a different flavor of letter depending on how old the receivables were.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So we built this automation. It was about a month, which was pretty quick for your first automation. And what it does, if the oldest receivable is 1 month old, they send them letter one. If it's 45 days old, they send them letter two, so on and so forth. And so they send out, now they're up to 700 letters a week globally.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them are on the lower end of, overdue. But the point is that freed up the time of roughly 3 people to do other things. They can actually talk to the customers about the collections.
Mm-hmm.
And automations are kind of like a crack in the windshield. You automate one thing and then you say, oh, I could do something to the left of that dunning letter. I could do something to the right of that dunning letter. So those are the kinds of, I want a dashboard that shows me, which of those customers that got the dunning letters I should be approaching Monday. It's Monday morning. Who should I be approaching? And so building an automation to tell each of those people whom they should be working on that day. So it's really a cool thing. And it was a great story. Usually you don't want to do your first automation, when it's facing the customer, but it worked out and they're happy and we're happy.
Oh, yeah, that's great. Incredible story. What I can see, and that grabbed my attention, you are driving the analytics project as well. Analytics.
Yeah, so many people say we're going to save money, we're going to save time by taking the work out of the hands of the humans and automating it. What they're missing is all the data that goes through the fingers of those humans today that nobody's collecting.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I say when I talk to clients is don't just automate, also the work activity, automate the data that's coming in. And give you a short story. We did
Yeah.
that in a purchasing area, and in most cases, the vendors they had preset discounts. Okay, so
Mhm.
they would buy. Okay, I've negotiated 20% discount with this vendor. But when we started to collect the data of the purchasing, we found out that those same vendors that were giving us 25% discount on the last month of their quarter, they were giving 40%.
Oh,
So we were getting bigger. So the point is,
I think you are on mute. You are on mute.
oh, it keeps going, the picture keeps going up. So what we found was, even though they give us a 25% discount, if we purchase from them on the last month of their quarters, their discounting was more aggressive.
Oh,
So in that particular situation, the savings was far beyond freeing up resources. It was actually a cost of goods sold savings. It was huge. So, analytics is very important, very important.
yeah,
So when you automate, don't just automate the task, automate the data that's involved in the task.
yeah. That absolutely makes sense. So, from your view, I mean, you talked about analytics, you talked about RPA. Uh, do you see a lot of use cases are nowadays emerging that has very good integration with maybe NLP, chatbot, process mining? How do you see? I mean, how the US market is evolving, and how are you experiencing?
That's a really good question. And a lot of people, like the CIOs I talked to, they read and they said, no, I don't want to do RPA. I want to do AI.
Mhm.
Well, and this is my metric that I use based on my research that I try to do every day. About 85% of what you need to do in a business can be satisfied with RPA.
Mhm.
About 10% requires machine learning cognitive. And it's only about 5% that requires AI.
Mhm.
So, and as you go up that scale, it's going to cost you more money and the development time increases. So, let's take care of your 85%, right? Now, the beauty of the machine learning, cognitive, and AI is the RPA companies like UiPath, they're actually incorporating it into the code. So you're getting that AI and the machine learning cognitive as as they come out with more releases. So they're just weaving it in
Oh,
so that it doesn't require extra development time. It's part of the development tool itself.
oh yeah.
And I think that's a great thing. I think it's amazing. The technology it's progressing at the speed of light. It's interesting to watch.
Yeah, yeah, great. This is interesting insight. My last question, and this is where again I'm coming back to from the career transformation perspective. I think uh, you are a Lean Six Sigma champion as well. What I learned from your profile. So how do you see the Lean Six Sigma and RPA AI works together? So how will Lean Six Sigma green belt or champions may amalgamate with their career to stay relevant and competitive into the market?
Well, first of all, the other mistake that's made out there is vendors want to just automate your process as is.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're a true transformation person, that's a sin. That's a sin. Because what you should do is optimize it first, then automate it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's the minds of these people that have this view of how can I optimize this process. They're very critical to automation. They really are. So I don't think that need's going to go away. And the other thing is sometimes we change the way we do the automation based on the Lean Six Sigma view. Wait a minute, why are we doing three things separately? Why not do them all at once simultaneously, right? So that's a very important skill set to have. I encourage clients to get it. I've got people on my team that are focused on that, whether it's the yellow belt, the green belt, the brown belt, the black belt. I don't care. It's that mindset that we need. We
Yeah,
need for transformation.
yeah, that's great. So it was really nice talking to you, Rita. This your morning time here in India, evening time. And thanks a lot for spending your precious time. And this definitely your views, insights, especially for the finance and accounting and the Lean Six Sigma professional. It's going to be inspirational. Yeah, thanks a lot
Great.
for the time.
Thank you for inviting me. Take care.